Hey, so a few weeks ago, I was asked to be interviewed on the Living in Sync podcast with my good friend Joelle, and we just had such a great conversation. So, this week on the podcast, I wanted to share that interview with you all. And what we talk about is, you know me, goal setting, but it was very conversational. We had just a great chat about it. So, that is what this week's episode is going to be about. Hope you enjoy. Welcome to the Obsessed or Not Interested podcast. I am your host, Mindy Wender-Corio, and I'm a small town go-to girl next door who is obsessed with helping others see more for themselves so they can thrive in all areas of life. I love researching all the things like wellness, mindset, relationships, you name it. If I'm obsessed with it, I get hyper-focused on it and I research the crap out of it, and then I share it with you. If those are things that you're also obsessed with, then keep listening and let's become new best friends. Dude, I'm so excited to be here, Joelle. I'm obsessed with you, as you already know. So I'm very excited.
Well, and you're on here today to really talk about a cornerstone moment that I had for myself of not being limited by being in a small town. And that's why I brought you on here because I think a lot of the ladies listening are struggling with limitations in the sense of maybe where they live, like small town girls, or stuck to, well, I got my degree in this, or my background is in this, or who am I to go after these really cool thoughts or ideas or paths or plans, but not feeling qualified in the sense. And you really taught me to see myself outside of those limitations by goal setting. And you are really and have mastered setting your sights, focusing in on a goal, and going for it. So, I want to start off with, to the ladies listening, like, why is it even important to set goals? Because I think a lot of us think of like goal setting as in like setting a resolution, and oftentimes we don't stick to resolutions. So, why is it important to set goals?
Okay. So this is my favorite thing to talk about. Favorite thing, because this is the thing that really transformed my life is when I started setting goals and doing my little morning routine situation. So I'm so happy you asked me that and kicked it off with that question because I could talk about this literally all day long. So and as you know, Joelle, that's what I would talk to my team about and still do to this day is like training on goal setting. And here's why. It's because first of all, I have ADHD. And it doesn't matter if you don't have ADHD. Right now, it's 2024. I don't know when you're listening to this, but I'm sure it's worse now if it's past this year. There is so many distractions. We have our children, we have our spouses, we have our social media feeds, we have our jobs, we have all of these things. And what happens is things can get very cloudy and we lose focus on what really matters. Like yesterday, for example, I have, well, you're probably not watching this on video, but I'll explain what I'm showing Joelle. This is my to-do list. That's just my regular to-do list. And this is my goals to-do list. These have all the check marks on it. And then I only have check marks on 3 things on my goal to-do list. That means I let the day get away from me. That means I lost focus. But at least I can see that because it's on paper and it's written down. So it's very easy with our busy lives to get distracted on what's
Yeah.
really important to us. So that's number one. Why I am so passionate about goal setting is because we're the shiny object. We're all over the place all the time. So when we sit down, and I always tell everybody to sit down when your kids are still asleep or after they went to bed, or I would do things in my sauna. And, actually, you know what I started? Joel, you might remember this. When I first started goal setting, I would go in my car. I'd literally go in my
Yeah.
car. So I'd
Yeah.
have my space. Because changing your environment, you guys, this is just a little side note you might want to write down and remember. Changing your environment changes your awareness. So you are just like, okay, if you go in your car, your sauna, well, not a lot of people are nerds like that with the wellness stuff, but like just changing your environment. Go in your closet, go in your bathroom, change your environment so you have quiet time and you're focused. And then what you're going to do is you're going to get very clear on what it is that you want And I'm getting ahead of myself, Joelle, and you want to write it down so you have that clear vision. Without vision, it says this in the Bible, without vision, people perish. So God's giving you these goals, God's giving you the vision, and we should obey. We should obey what God's putting on our hearts. So by not writing these goals down, we're not going to be focused on them or hyper focused on them. And I'll teach you guys how to do that too. And those are going to get brushed under the rug with all our busy stuff like mine did yesterday. My day yesterday is what everyone's else every single day is. But now I can actually see what happened yesterday. And today I can catch up and get back
Yeah.
on track.
I have something to add on environment too, because it sparked a memory in my mind of when I was first building my Beachbody Body business, and I was living in a small one-bedroom apartment as a literal college student, Mindy. Like, we've known each other for so long and through many seasons of life. And when it came to the idea of, changing your environment, I had a dining room or a living room that was my workout space, my office, my dining room, because I was just in this teeny tiny one bedroom apartment. But even the simplicity of, I always kept my computer, my business tracker, and a notebook in a basket that sat underneath my coffee table. And when I was like, okay, I'm going to put my work time in and sit down and take my business serious, or take, because that was the goal that I was working on at the time, and take that seriously, I am going to take out that basket, and it always stayed in that basket. And I think even there's those little triggers environmentally where it's okay, I take out my basket, I sit in the specific spot on the love seat, not on the regular couch where I was chilling, relaxing, hanging out. And now, being a mom, it has been in different seasons of, like, when the kids were teeny tiny babies and I was trying to get a morning routine, I'd go into the master closet, because if they saw any poke of light coming out of anywhere else, they'd get out of bed. Well, now I can go to our dining room table that's surrounded by windows, looking out at my birds chirping, to do my morning routine. So I really think, like, you ladies can take this and think of it in the space and place of, it's important to set goals. Number one, to really live intentionally, is what I'm hearing you
Yes.
say. To stay
Yes.
focused on, if you're saying your family is your most important thing, or you're wanting to build a business, or you're wanting to take your health goals seriously, it's about being intentional. And you can do that by really thinking about the environmental ways you're setting yourself up for success. And I don't want you to think about, ladies listening, it being like, not what you have, but what can you make of what you have?
Mm-hmm.
In the example of my little tiny dining room, and when I was going to then work out in that same living room, I took out a basket that had my little hand weights and my turbo gloves at the time, and like the bands that were starting to be used with the different workout programs. And then when the workout was done, I I say I put all that stuff away, but when it's just like a box, I just literally threw all this stuff back in the box. Workouts done and over. So I really love that you emphasize right at the beginning of this, like, setting goals is about being intentional and making progress in the things that matter to you, right?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and you know what? Another thing is that at the top of my goal list, so I'll rewrite my goals once a week. And the reason why I rewrite my goals once a week, and you can even do it more often, ladies listening, you can do it
Mhm.
more often because the more you write them out, the more that it's in your awareness and that you'll be focused on it. And it's like the red car theory. It's like when Joey went to buy a red truck this year, now all I see is this red truck everywhere I go.
Yeah.
It's
Yeah.
because you're more aware of that. So there's something in your brain called the reticular activating system. It's in the back of your neck. And what that does, it brings things into your life that you're focused on. It brings it to your awareness that you're thinking about, that you're talking about. Now all of a sudden you see all that. And the things that you're not focused on, guess what? Out of your awareness. So that's why it's really key. So I'll write my goals at least once a week, and then I write my top 3 goals every single day. I call those my 3 hyper focus goals. But on the top of my goal list, I can show you right now, but I know this, a lot of people aren't watching on video, but it says my top 3 priorities. And I write out my top 3 priorities on the top of my goal list every single time. And why do I
Yeah.
do that? Because we are being intentional, like you said, Joelle. We want to be intentional with with where we're going and what we're accomplishing. And by the way, on this goal, it's not just about career. I have date nights weekly is one of my goals. It's about marriage. It's about every single category in my life. And guess what? Every single quarter, I reevaluate all those categories and I do a self assessment to say, okay, I'm not doing great in my spirituality. I've been skipping my Bible time. So guess what? One of my goals that for that quarter is going to be morning routine, spending time with God. But again, so it's all about your intentions, like you said, and prioritizing what's important to you. So, like I said, I put my top 3 priorities every single week. So then when I'm writing my goals, I'm not moving away from what's important to me. I'm actually staying exactly where God wants me to be and focusing on the things that are important to me, as well as or like my top 3 priorities, as well as, and sometimes your top priorities are your career. For me, it's usually not my career though. It's usually God, family, health, things like that. But don't beat yourself up if that a career is on your top priority, because guess what? Your career, don't, I'm going to get on my soapbox, but it's okay to want to earn money. It's okay to want to crush your goals. It's okay to want to advance in your career, because that, guess what Joelle has done in her career with Beachbody and now in continuing on, but also what I've done, that has provided us to be at home with, like, we're doing what we love from home. It's
Mhm,
because
mhm.
we chased after our goals, because some of the career goals help you accomplish your family goals, becoming debt free, working from home, being present with your kids, not missing a baseball game, all of those things. If they're on your list, how do you get to those things? Sometimes that's start that business.
Yeah. I love all the hot tips that you're giving right now on goal setting hot tips. And I hope you ladies have caught them, because she said things like knowing your priorities and then writing them down. That has been really heavy. And then checking them once again. Like you said, I come back to these every quarter. I'm looking at and writing down my top 3 goals every day. And I actually want you to talk more specifically of, okay, write down my goals. What does that look like?
Yeah.
And have you ever had, I'm going to put these together because I really think you could answer them both in the same breath. What do you say to those ladies that are like, I have been writing down this same goal of, let's make the example of like, I want to lose 15 pounds. And I've written that down over and over and over again. Or maybe they haven't written it down, but they're like, I know I want to lose 15 pounds, but this goal is feeling so defeating because I'm literally not hitting it. And I've never gotten close to hitting it. And I haven't hit this goal. So I feel
Mhm.
frustrated keeping on writing the same thing down over and over and over again.
Oh gosh, I've been there. Guys, you are not alone. Every single person listening to this has been there before. But now I'm going to tell you exactly how to not get there again. And guess what? I still get there and I have to remind myself about this. So I'm not, it's no guarantee. We all need refreshers. Okay, but here's my exact system in a nutshell. And I'm going to address both the questions with telling you the system. And this is literally this system I have been doing. Joelle knows this for 15 years. Of course, I've edited some things, I tweak things, but here's where this is effective. I promise you. So here's what you're going to do. You take out a blank sheet of paper. I use my journal, but I do a blank sheet of paper prior to doing your goals, though. Like I just said, I figure out my top priorities. I do a self assessment. I get where I have to have my mind in the right, mindset of where I'm going in my life. I also pre goals, I will write down a list, like it's like a dream life wish list, you could call it like a brain dump. And when you do this list, if you want to be like a pre-gamer like me and do like extra credit, write down this list and do not think about the how or what
Mhm.
everyone's going to think. It could be like, by the way, you got to be honest with yourself. If you're chasing after goals like, oh, I want world peace. I mean, we
Yeah,
all
like
want
my
world peace.
fluffy goal of like, I want to lose 15 pounds. Like, critique
Yes.
me when I say that.
Yes. Because your verbiage and how we talk to ourselves and how we writing these things down, everything matters. We don't think it matters, but I'm glad that you brought that up. But so when you're writing your brain dump, your wish list, I don't want you to think about how, I don't want you to say, okay, if you write down, I want to be famous, that's okay to want to be famous. Who cares what everyone else, no one's going to see your list. So don't think that it has to be like this politically correct BS or whatever. Just hide your notebook so nobody sees this. So there's your brain, your wish list, all the things that you want in your life, right? Now we're going to go to your goals. I do a long term list. So I have two sheets of paper, they're side by side. I first do a long term goal list and I number 1 through 10. Long term to me personally means 1 to 5 years. Okay, that's long
Mhm.
term to me. And what am I going to accomplish? What do I want to accomplish in the next 12 months to 5 years, 1 through 10? And you can, when you write these out, you can write them out as if you've already achieved them, but this doesn't work for everyone. But say, I weigh X amount of weight and be very, very specific. You have to be specific. Don't say, I want to lose weight. Mm-mm.
Yeah.
That's a no-no. That's going to stall your progress. So first of all, I want you to write, I weigh this amount of weight, but if it's feeling inauthentic to you in any way, shape, or form, say, I will weigh this amount of you. So because if it feels inauthentic, it's not, you're not gonna get excited about it. You're not gonna, but if you can say, I am this, and you can do that, by all means do that. But if it doesn't feel authentic, don't. So 1 through 10, you're going to write those. And then I go back and on this goal list, I read them to myself out loud. I read them. And as I'm reading them, I feel the feelings that I would feel if I had already achieved those things. Okay. And then I also like to come back to that, and I'll touch on this, but having a target date. So what
Mm.
year do you want to be debt free? Like, I am debt free. I pay off this. What year is that going to happen? What date is that going to happen? Now let's move on to the short-term list. So this is just a really quick nutshell training, by the way. So the short-term list is what I believe I can accomplish in 3 to 6 months. So
Yeah.
what we're doing is we're taking the long term. So I'm going to get back to that question. This is where I'm getting to answer the second question. The long term list, and now you're reverse engineering a little bit the long term, breaking it down to more tangible goals with the short term. What can I accomplish in 3 to 6 months? So for somebody saying, I want to lose 50 pounds, that could be a long term goal. And now let's break it down to a short term goal. That's what I want to accomplish this year, or maybe over 6 months, like 8 months. That still can be a long term goal. And now, short term, what can I do in the next 90 days? What can I
Yeah.
do in the next 90 days to accomplish that weight loss goal? So you can start breaking it down to little tiny bite size. And then what you do, so that's your short term goals, right? And then what I do personally is I pick in my short term goals, I pick 3 hyper focus goals. These are the goals that every single day in my hyper focus journal, I'm going to rewrite them down. I'm going to rewrite them, and every single day. So guess what you're doing? You're activating your RAS that we already talked about. So you're focused on that. More things, you're going to be more aware of things, like if it's to lose or to finish a 4 week workout program. If we're like reverse engineering that last goal, that I write this long-term goal and I never hit it. Now we've broke it down to a short term. Now we're rewriting that every single day. So now what we can put on our hyper focus goal and then our hyper focus to-do list every single day. So we're rewriting the 3 goals, and then we're making a to-do list to accomplish those 3 goals. That could be like, get day 2 of 4 weeks for everybody. It's a low-key workout that
Yeah.
is
I'm
good
doing
for us.
3-day split right now.
I
So
was
I'm
just
in
gonna
the autumn. 3-day split is so good.
I was going to bring that up because I know you're doing that. So, right though, but that's a thing on your to-do list, right, Joelle? You're like, oh, I'm going to do this today. Or if it's not in your 3 days, what do you do in your off days? Is it
Walk.
walking? Yeah.
Mhm.
So it's like, I go for a blank mile walk, or you get what I mean. So that's going to be on your to-do list. And guess what? These little tiny things, like Joelle going for her walk, could be on her to-do list that is taking, I don't know, 2% of her day. It's a small task that's easy to do, but also easy not to do. But it's like compound interest. When Joelle does this, every single day, she's doing little by little tiny tasks that don't take a long time. That is leading her to her long-term goal, just like compound interest. We've just put a little bit into our investment accounts every single week, 10% of our checks, whatever. And then by the time you're retired, boom.
Yeah.
That's
You
what this is like.
You just gave, like, the literal best crash course on goal setting, you guys, and all of my listeners are saying, like, "Oh my god, yeah, Joelle has been in Mindy's strategy for so long," because I've told my listeners about telescope and microscope vision in talking about the vision for your life is seeing telescope, seeing far away, seeing that, wow, that's incredible, all the stars in the sky. But then having those microscope things where you're like, well, just for today, I'm going to do this. And so you literally just explained that in the best way possible. You guys go back, listen, take more notes. Now I want to talk about the buts. But Mindy, I don't have a big enough following. But Mindy, I live in a small town. But Mindy, my background is in education. Like, what? How could I ever be a health, so help people with their health and fitness? Like, when it comes to the circumstances, what would you say to those ladies that are still lingering on the limitations? And as I call it, I saw you, small town girl from Michigan. You had one son at the time, just not being limited by, and I'm also very much in a small town in the middle of nowhere as well. And what can we say to those ladies that are like, but this, but that? What advice do you have for them to start looking bigger and dreaming bigger?
Well, I'm glad you asked somebody like me this because for those of you who have never heard my story, Joelle knows. But like you guys, I
Share it.
mean, I am
Give it
from
to them. Give it to them. Give it
I
to
am
them.
from the smallest town on the planet in the upper peninsula of Michigan. I was so broke that I was on state assistance, guys, state assistance. I was working 40 hours a week, and then my husband was laid off from his job. So then I already hated being away from my brand new baby. By the way, I had a 3-week maternity leave from after I gave birth to my first son, and it was unpaid maternity leave. Had to go back to work for 40 hours a week. Then my husband gets laid off, so then I had to pick up more hours at work. So now I'm working 50 hours a week. I got home one day, you guys. I'm broke, I'm unhealthy, I'm shy, like painfully shy and insecure, like all the things that we all feel. And I remember coming home one day and I looked at I actually was very excited when I got home, to be honest, because I got to see my son. So I was like, oh my gosh, Lane, I was so excited. And then that feeling of, just happiness to see my son was just swoosh out of my body, sucked right out of my body, because then I would see a stack of bills on the table. And I'm like, how are we going to pay those? And then I turn to the other side and I see the microwave clock that said 7 o'clock. And my son goes to bed at 8. And that's when I was like, dude, what am I doing with my life? This is not this is not God's plan for my life. He does not want me to be stressed, unhappy, insecure, unhealthy. He doesn't want me to live my life this way. And that's when I started to realize that yes, I'm shy. Yes, even though I have a podcast now, I spoke on stage. I spoke on a stage with 30,000 people in the
And it was
audience.
incredible, and then her son came on stage, and I cried because I was a new mom, like, my little guy was 1 years old, and I was like, "Oh my god, Mindy," once again, I'm like, "I wanna be on a stage with my son someday."
Oh, and you know what, Joelle? What's so cool that you got to see that is because you also got to see how this started.
He was
How
2.
yes,
He was 2
exactly.
years old.
How
Yeah,
I was building this because of him. And so it's cool
and
that
now
you
he's 15, you guys, he's
yes.
15 years old.
See
Lane
now.
doesn't know me, but I know Lane, and now
Yes.
he's 15, and I'm like, "Where does the years go?"
Like it's your nephew.
Yeah, literally.
I love it. But yeah, so you got to see that full circle moment though, that this doesn't happen overnight and that's okay. Like you said, it's great to have the vision, like you said, the telescope, but we have to break it down and like what we can do now. So what I had to do now in that moment, even though I was shy, even though I was insecure, even though all these things, excuses, I had a lot of excuses and it was just my situation. It was my truth at the time. But
Yeah.
I knew that I wanted more and different. And so even though I had all the things working against me, what I did was I started, but I started very small. I started with affirmations. I started reading personal growth. I started learning about goal setting. I didn't start goal setting because guess what? I had no idea what goal setting was. I had never set a goal in my life up until the time that point in my life where I was like, enough is enough. And
Mhm.
so if you guys are still held back by whatever it is, I'll tell you the reason why. You do not have a strong enough reason why. My
Mhm.
why was I wanted to make my son proud. I wanted to not miss a little league game. I wanted to be not going to work and putting my son, getting to hang out with my kid for an hour a night. I didn't, that was enough for me to do uncomfortable things. That was enough for me to invest in myself. And like I said, it started small. I started working out. I started to surround myself with positive people, which by the way, I had none in my small little town and I didn't have time. I was working 50 hours a week and I'm a new mom. You moms on here, when do we have time to find these
Right.
positive friends? But what I did was, well, now what I would do now is podcasts, listen to podcasts like Joelle. Like back in the day, I'd listen to your podcast, and I'd be like, okay, she's my best friend. I would really, so what I did was audiobooks because there was no podcast then. So I listened to audiobooks, and those were my mentors from afar. That was me hanging out with positive people. And I was learning the things from these books and from these mentors from afar to apply to my life so I could
Yeah.
start turning my life around. And then I got into goal setting, and then I figured out what I'm passionate about, and then I was like, maybe I could make an income doing this, and found a done for you business called
Yeah.
Beachbody Body. Network marketing is, if you guys are not sure what you want to do, and network marketing is a great place to start because it's a done for you business, no
For
customer
sure.
service, shipping, all the things. And it's great as long as you're partnered with a good company. But in a nutshell, the excuses are only going to hold you back from who God has created you to be. And it's time today to shut those negative voices up in your head. And we all have self-limiting beliefs. We all have that negative voice, but guess what? You don't have to listen to it. You can
Mhm.
replace it with affirmations. And like I said, listening to positive podcasts and just start small.
Yeah, that's huge, and I'm glad you shared that about taking the steps to put yourself into places and spaces that were positive online, which back in the day when we first started, that was not common. There's a lot of online spaces and communities now, and that's exactly it too, where I started showing up for every single one of your team calls. And I'm sure like the first handful of times I was on the team calls, it was just like, oh, there's somebody new. But then over time, Mindy kept seeing my name popping up on calls and in our back office. And then it was like, we were hanging out in Vegas and doing all of
Yep.
these other things in real life. And now when we see each other at events, which it's been way too long, but when we see each other in real life, it's, oh my God, we know each other
Right.
through so much. And so that's why for those of you ladies, we've done a couple podcast episodes on friendships. Mindy has a podcast episode on friendships that's absolutely incredible because that does take time. Just like you don't go on your first date with your significant other and be like, "So, when are we planning our wedding?" Like, it takes time to build relationships with people. So, start by putting yourself in positive spaces, whether that is online or in person. If you're really wanting to grow in your faith, go try out different churches. And I really think like God will give you that feeling of when you've landed on the right thing and in the right places, because with mine and Mindy's businesses, and we're going to have a conversation about this on her podcast, so make sure you guys check that out. But when you're pursuing your path that God has placed you on, it's like a resounding comfortable feeling, or maybe not comfortable because we're getting out of our comfort zones, but it just feels right for whatever reason. I mean, a college student that was watching Mindy's sister Jackie post about our opportunity, and for whatever reason, it just felt right. to sign up. There was no explanation. I thought about it for a while from doing my own research, but for whatever reason, I'm like, well, this just feels like the next right step. And then life has just layered in that way so many times. So I love the encouragement that you give about seeing beyond circumstances. And I've asked everybody this question in this series. Did you ever think you would land in online entrepreneurship or entrepreneurship in general?
Well, I'll let you guys just assume somebody who's sitting in their home on state assistance, broke as a joke. Yeah, no. I had no business background, especially then I
You
started a
guys,
fitness business.
everybody has said that. Everyone in this series, I've had at least 5 in this series so far, Mindy.
It's a no.
Everybody has said, "Nope, I did not think I'd be an entrepreneur."
Yeah, and you know what else? Just I'll end with this is that I remember I went into Beachbody, which is a fitness business. Now it's Body. I have a hard time changing the name. But here's the thing. When I did finally bite the bullet and join, now I'm an entrepreneur. Now I got this business and I'm going to break through all these excuses. Here's what I was seeing. Everyone around me was either this fitness professional, like teaching fitness classes, and hello, shy, not a fitness expert, don't know anything. That's a no. And then over here were people that had these huge before and afters, like huge, like before and after pictures. Those were the two categories that were really successful. That was in my awareness at that time. And
Right.
so I guess the message I just want to say is that I didn't think that I'd be an entrepreneur. And then even when I became one, I still didn't think I would belong there because everyone else around me didn't look like me and I didn't have the same story as them. But what I decided to do is just share who I was and my story. And by sharing this, I remember speaking at Janelle Summers' house. She's like my upline coach and a mentor. She's
She's
a great friend.
Mindy's mom. She's
She's
Mindy's mom.
my
Just
mom,
in the
and she's a
business.
great friend of mine. It's actually Shalene Johnson's sister. But so she invited me to her house. She was just gonna share with everybody, about what's working in her business and stuff. And I was like so eager and hunger. I go there. She invited me to speak. I was like, me? You want me to
Yeah.
speak? And I had a t-shirt on, a do more t-shirt, like merch t-shirt and just whatever. And I get up on the stairs and I was just myself. I'm like, "Hi, I'm Mindy from the UP of Michigan and this is what I'm doing and blah blah blah." And all these women, and so I was scared to death. My armpits were sweating. All these women came up after, including Trina Gray. So for those of you who don't know who that is, she is one of the top people now in that company, and she had not even started working her business at that point. And she said, by hearing me and my story and how I was different than whatever she was seeing, she was nothing like me because she owned a fitness gym and all this stuff. But she saw that she didn't have to be like everybody else either because I wasn't.
Mm,
And
yeah.
so don't try to compare yourself. You don't have to be like everybody else. Run your own race. And what I have always told my team and the girls that I mentor currently, you got to put blinders on and just put blinders on, have your goals, put blinders on and run towards your goals, being authentically you.
Yeah. Oh, that's so good. That gave me chills up my little spine because I have loved that about you and your authenticity in the over a decade time I've known you. You've always just been so authentically you. And we talked about that on last week's episode with Bree Kane in being the innovator and doing something different because sometimes we can look at like success leaves clues and see somebody else's path, but then really look at how can I innovate it and do it in my own way, and you will be that next person that others are asking like, how'd you do that? What do you do? You're doing this differently, and that gets people paying attention to you. And so, Mindy, I'm going to make sure that I link your Instagram and your podcast, Obsessed or Not Interested. You guys, I'm the podcast producer of that. I absolutely love and know that you guys are going to love Obsessed or Not Interested too, because it's a very much lifestyle and wellness based podcast. Mindy is very conversational and great at talking to you, the listener, like we're here. And I hope you felt that with this conversation I've had with Mindy. But Mindy, share with them a little bit more about the different ways and different things that you have where they can come and connect into your world.
For sure, yeah. Like you just said, Joelle, Obsessed or Not Interested is my podcast. I have a new podcast that Joelle produces, so you know it's just like perfection. That comes out every Tuesday and Friday. Friday's episodes are very laid back, you guys. It's 3 to 5 minute voice memo. Like you do voice memo with your girlfriend. That's basically what I would do.
Yeah.
I'd be
Yeah.
sending a voice memo to my friend about a hot take on something. I was like, you know what? I'm going to make this into a series on my podcast. So anyway, that comes out. It's called Wait a Minute, but it's all under Obsessed or Not Interested on my podcast. You can follow me there. But then everything is Mindy Wender, like mindywender.com, Mindy Wender on Facebook, Mindy Wender on Instagram, Mindy Wender on YouTube, all of it.
Yeah.
So you can find
And
me there.
since I'm your friend and you're not gonna hype yourself up, I'm gonna hype you up. So let me just have the mic for a moment. Mindy has this really great mindset course. And so if you guys are really like if you know in your heart it's your own mind that's setting those limitations, it's your own mind that's like blocking you from going towards certain goals that you have. Mindy has a really, really great course and free resources on her website. So I do want you guys to like take a hot minute. And then she also has the hyper focus journal, which if you are somebody who needs that physical anchor, and Mindy says this on her podcast all the time, like you don't need my journal because you can just do this in a notebook. But if you're like, I just want to open my page and follow the template that Mindy outlined, the hyper focus journal is so great for that because you plug and play. You then can say, okay, I'm going to start a morning routine to start getting intentional on goal setting. Then you open up hyper focus journal and you can just plug and play straight into that right away. Whereas I know there's a lot of times too where I'm starting off on a journey. And I think that's why we both loved Beachbody Body so much, is because when it comes to fitness, things were so overcomplicated.
Mhm.
And whether you have ADHD or you're just got a busy life, sometimes it's so nice to put that on semi autopilot and be like, this is my workout I'm doing for today.
Mhm.
And so with the hyper focus journal, you open up and you're like, okay, this is how I'm structuring out my goal setting and getting my mind right and being intentional with my time and my to-do list today. So I needed to hype you up because that was your opportunity to hype yourself up and you didn't. So I took the
Sorry.
ball and I think I slam dunked it right there
You did.
because
You
I
did.
I love this series so much, you guys, because I'm bringing people who have impacted my life in such profound ways. And Mindy has impacted my life in more ways than she even knows. So I'm so grateful that I've gotten to introduce you guys to her. You're going to love and just be entertained, educated, and feel like you've got a friend in Mindy, just like I have developed a friendship and relationship with Mindy. So thank you so much for being on here today. I really, really appreciate it.
Thank you so much, Joelle. That was so nice of you to say. I'm so happy that we were connected from who even knows how you found Beachbody that led you to Jackie,
Oh,
my.
I'll tell you. You guys come on over to Mindy's podcast and I'll tell you.
Oh, good. Yeah, but I'm just so grateful to have you in my life as a friend. And I think it's because you're so authentic and relatable. And I don't know, is it a Midwest thing or is it just like us? But right away, like even on the team calls in the comment section, I'm like, I love this girl. It's a Midwest thing, maybe. But, anyways, thank you so much for having me. Seriously, thank you so much for listening to this episode of Obsessed or Not Interested podcast. I love connecting with you on social media. So if you guys want, please shoot me a DM at either our podcast Instagram, which is at Obsessed or Not Interested, or even my personal Instagram, which is at Mindy Wender. I check them both, so either is fine. Oh, and truly, if this has helped you even 1%, if you could do me a huge solid and leave me a rating and review, that would mean the world to me. When you guys do that, here's why I really love it. It's because it helps the podcast be able to reach more women who want and need this. So truly, that is like the best compliment you could ever give me, is just leaving ratings and reviews for this podcast. Anything that I talked about in today's episode, any links or resources, you will find that in the show notes. Thank you for listening to today. Can't wait to chat more in the DMs, and don't forget to tune in next Tuesday.